to the floor, right? Wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
Sophie Cunningham breaks silence after Fever's gut-wrenching loss. Her 6 words say it all after the Indiana Fever suffered their most painful defeat of the season, a shocking 89-87 loss to the struggling Los Angeles Sparks. Sophie Cunningham finally spoke out. This wasn't just another mark in the loss column. It was a game marked by questionable officiating, aggressive plays, and one moment that stunned fans, Sophie being grabbed around the neck without a single foul call. The Fever's 3-game winning streak was snapped in brutal fashion, but Sophie's response? A smile. A laugh. And then, just 6 words that sent chills through the WNBA community. What did she say that redefines the fight in this Fever squad? If you stand with Sophie and the Indiana Fever, drop a comment below. Spicy Sophie. Let's ride.
The fun group, we have a goofy group, but sometimes you kind of need to get pissed off a little bit and dial in. I think that's what you saw today.
Picture this, just days ago, the Indiana Fever were at the peak of their season. Riding a 3-game hot streak, they took down some of the WNBA's biggest names in dominant fashion. First came a statement win over Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings. Then, they steamrolled the Minnesota Lynx to capture their first ever Commissioner's Cup title. But the true crown jewel? A commanding victory over AJA Wilson and the defending champion Las Vegas Aces, a performance that had everyone suddenly whispering one word, championship. And just like that, Howard threads a backdoor pass to Mitchell and the momentum was electric.
Howard looking backdoor for Mitchell, not there, shot clock down to 7. McDonald feed inside, and it's Howard for 2.
And let's not forget, Caitlin Clark wasn't even on the court. The Fever's engine, their floor general, was sidelined with a lingering left groin injury. This marked her 10th missed game of the season, and the impact was obvious. Without Clark orchestrating the offense, the team's identity shifted dramatically. The tempo slowed. The crisp ball movement that had made them so lethal vanished. Aaliyah Boston, usually dominant when fed in the paint, was left starved for touches, unable to fully unleash her game without the rhythm Clark provides.
Indiana Fever fans, we came up short. We lost in the final seconds of this game, 89-87. We were up by 6 points with 5 minutes left and also up by 4 points with a minute.
But here's the wild part, the Fever were still favored to win. ESPN gave them a 72.9% chance of victory. Vegas had them as 6.5-point favorites. On paper, this was supposed to be a routine win against one of the league's worst teams. The Sparks entered the game with a dismal 5-13 record. Yes, Caitlin Clark was out. Sure, Darius Dantas was off representing her country at the FIBA AmeriCup, and Dana Borner had flat out quit on the team. Still, expectations were clear. The Fever were supposed to take care of business. No excuses.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have...
The cruel irony? It hit hard. The Sparks had already taken down the Fever once this season, when Indiana was at full strength. Now, short-handed and struggling, they faced the same team that had embarrassed them weeks ago. And this time, they got their revenge. The final score said it all, 89-87. A 2-point heartbreaker. The Fever missed their last 5 shots, 4 of them in the final minute. Just days ago, they were riding championship momentum. Now, without their superstar to steer the ship, that dream suddenly felt fragile. But the score was only part of the pain. The real controversy? That was just getting started.
I don't get it. Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. Touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game, and guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, The physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul after foul in the second half.
This is where the night took a dark turn, one that had Coach Stephanie White visibly furious. The game was tight, the energy tense, and then came the officiating. Call after call left fans, players, and coaches stunned. What should have been a clean, competitive finish spiraled into chaos. You could feel the frustration boiling over as the refs seemed to completely lose their grip on the game. What started as a hard-fought battle quickly turned into something far more controversial.
To the floor, right? Wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
Then came the moment that lit a fire under the entire arena. During a loose ball scramble, Julie Van Loo wrapped her arm around Sophie Cunningham's neck. This wasn't incidental contact, it was a blatant foul, plain as day. And it happened right in front of the officials. Yet, no whistle. No call. Nothing. Sophie's reaction said everything. That smile, that quiet laugh, it wasn't amusement. It was disbelief. She knew exactly what it meant. The refs weren't protecting anyone out there. Not her. Not her teammates. And certainly not the game itself.
That's what I was talking about with Sophie Cunningham. Look at this. She literally grabbed her around her neck, and they called this a jump ball, and then threw her down the next play.
The scene practically wrote itself. Sophie gets grabbed across the face and neck, no call. Meanwhile, the officials were wasting time dissecting clean defensive plays frame by frame. Sydney Colson made a textbook block that was somehow whistled as a foul. It took an agonizingly long review just to correct what was clearly the wrong call from the start. Yet the obvious, the dangerous, the plays that actually demanded a whistle? Those were ignored all night. The inconsistency wasn't just frustrating, it was infuriating.
And threw her down the next play. And then Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player. Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player, and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one, and they called a foul on.
These calls came at the worst possible time, during the final, pressure-packed minutes when every single possession mattered. The Fever weren't just trying to close out a game they should have won handily, they were fighting for their lives. But it wasn't just the Sparks they were up against. It was the officials, too. You could see the pattern emerge in real time, a double standard that's haunted the Fever all season. The officiating wasn't just inconsistent, it was dangerous. When you let blatant contact like Sophie's go uncalled, you send a clear message, anything goes. And that message left Fever players exposed, while the Sparks seemed to benefit from every whistle.
And this is fourth quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up. Lexi Hall can't believe it. That's a foul. The ref was right there in front of her. And then here we go. And they kept McDonald in foul trouble the entire game. There's 2 in a row where she didn't do anything. Look at that. Just had her arms in the air, but they gave, this is the fourth quarter. And they just kept giving every single call. I like Leah Boston finally getting pissed off. Then they call this away from the ball in the fourth quarter. Nothing going on. Just to put him at the line, and then Kelsey Plum, another one. But when Howard drives and gets slashed across the face, no foul, just out of bounds.
Coach Stephanie White's post-game press conference said it all. When asked about the outcome, she didn't rant. She didn't point fingers. She simply delivered 4 words that cut right to the heart of it: we didn't get the calls. That quiet, measured response spoke volumes. It wasn't an excuse, it was the truth. Anyone watching could feel it. the referees had changed the trajectory of the game. And in the fourth quarter, when everything was on the line, just look at the tape. The imbalance was undeniable.